Hey everybody, it's Steve with Sky194 and appreciate you taking the time to visit and check out my video. And we are here at Monza with something a little different, the Porsche Cup car. I had a request for a setup for it, and definitely a lot different car to drive, that's for sure. Different in every way, different to drive, different gearing in it. Of course, the engine doesn't rev as high as the GT3 car, so it's a lot of things to get used to because you're shifting different than you do in the GT3 car, and of course, it doesn't have near the aero, doesn't have any traction control. There's a lot of limited things you can do with the setup because you can't change. Um, the diff is pretty much open. There's nothing. There's nothing you can do with the diff. And some other things when we go over the setup that I can show you. But so it makes it a little tougher to get it done overall. So we're going to make a few laps here, and then we'll go over the setup. And of course, I'll put the link to the setup in the description. So let's go ahead and jump behind here because there's a few things I just wanted to talk about as we go around here. Go ahead and just turn the HUD on. Of course, it's got great straightaway speed. Of course, I put enough fuel because he's racing an hour, so I think it took like 76 liters. I figured it out for an hour. So we're stopping before the 150. So you a little earlier than, see, it's actually between the 200 and the 150. I'm actually on the brakes. I mean, we're GT3 car, you can go, I mean, actually right up to the 150, that line up there. So you can definitely, you're stopping, earlier. You just don't have the braking, and I even got the braking pretty as best I could on this. And again, it doesn't downshift as fast either. It's slower shifting as far as downshifting, so you got to really be, consistent with that. Something else to get used to. And of course, I come in here like this. I just want to also talk about the first lap. Whenever you start the race, when you come through here, you have to be extremely careful. With no traction control and the tires cold, especially if they do a full warm-up lap, your tires are you're basically going to be like driving on rain with slicks. I mean, it's going to be equal to that because these tires I try to limit the negative camber, but you have to run a lot more negative camber in this thing to get it to handle, and so that means you got less tire on the road, and then on top of that, you have no traction control. So it's completely zero. So basically, you want to make sure you're just about perfectly straight before you really hammer it. You do not want to get into this thing while it's turned, or it'll come around on you in a nanosecond. So now after the tires get warmed up, it's not too bad. But just that first lap, you got to brake sooner, and you got to be very easy on the throttle. Especially for that first corner, that corner and this next one coming up, the next chicane, you want to brake a little early to make sure you don't blow right through it. Of course, here basically it's right past the 150, and basically when it's the first lap, you want to be just a little earlier than this. Like coming up just before the 150, you want to hit the brakes. And again, that's on the first lap. But here you can, as soon as you're passing the 150, before the orange here, you want to be all on the brakes for sure. Go down to second. Because if you go down to second, you have a less chance of spinning the tire. So, even after it's warm, it's better just to stay in second gear and just use that. And, of course, once you're coming through here, you can run over these sausages. It won't wreck it or anything, but you definitely want to open these corners, every one of these corners, you want to try to open up as soon as you can, because the sooner you get your straighter, the sooner you can get on the gas harder. Where if you're trying to pull it in tight and don't open it up to use the whole road, it's going to make it want to spin. It's going to make the rear end want to come out when you get on it. Same thing with that with the orange mark. You just hit the brakes, downshift 1. Basically the same. Same with this one. You hit, basically come up to the 50, hit the brakes, downshift 1. And of course you can run right over that. It's not a problem. But you're going to be doing a lot of shifting middle of the corner with this car. So coming up here, you'll be doing that. Where before you'd be shifting fourth right when you're getting a straightaway. Well, now it's basically going halfway through here. But anyway, coming up here, the bridge, you're going to be on the brakes. I mean, like a GT3 car, you're at the orange mark here or just past it. But this, you got to be basically right at the bridge. Down to third, same. You can run over this, not a problem. But see how I'm already upshifted to fourth with a GT3 car. Basically, you don't upshift to fourth until you're, I think, up here somewhere. But the RPM is a lot more. Now you can run over that too, it's not a problem. Basically right at the 100, I'm on the brakes. And that's it, pretty simple, just some things you got to be careful of. First that, I think it was a 150.49, I think. Or 4.5, one of the two. And of course, there's no draft. Or obviously, if you had a draft, you'd probably get into 149s. And we're still got a lot of fuel. Be careful with hitting the limiter. This thing is easy to hit the limiter. So it, you know, where the other one, the GT3, you know, kind of revs out a little bit. This just, it's really quick and it just kills you. So you really got to be, you know, on paying attention 100% to make sure you're not bouncing off the limiter. Yeah, it was a 150.45. So, I mean, that's the best. That was my best lap. And of course, I'm trying to make it as consistent and driver friendly as I can for an hour, because that's a, you know, pretty long race, you know, with no pit stop. So, trying to make it to where it's not on the ragged edge. So, let's go to the last lap. That's after 30 minutes. Like I said, I had enough fuel on there to go an hour. You can see there's 40 liters, so more than enough. That was a 151.01. You gotta be so gotta be so careful through there because you are in first gear, and you really got to get the car 80% straight before you really hammer it. You don't want to be hard turned and then start stabbing the gas because you will be spinning around. And that one's not as bad because you're in second gear. Still will do it. It'll still spin if you get too aggressive and throw you over to the other side of the road. But you can be more aggressive than you are on the first chicane. Thing's got definitely speed. You can see the speed. Last lap, it's 165 right there. That's probably 5 mile an hour, 4 or 5 mile an hour more than a GT3 car. And that was the last lap. And we had a 151.42. So let's go. My new livery, I made a livery for it. I like it. Let's go to that. Let's go to the timetables. I had one out. I had a couple mess ups. A couple of these laps were not the greatest. Like that one there was a total mess up. Didn't go out, but just kind of messed the turn up. But still, again, here's 2/10 right there. If I would have had that there's 2/10. So I would have been. And I had a couple times where I could have, my Delta said I would have, was on a pace of like a 150.2 or something like that. So, like I said, no drafting. I know drafting, you could definitely gain a bunch if you had some drafting help. But again, mostly 150s, some 151 lows. But again, fairly consistent. I mean, I admit I'm probably not the best at driving it. I did put a lot of laps in trying to get this thing, because again, you're limited, and we'll go over that. So we got tires. Take one out. I wanted to do that because the left front was getting a little warm. 26.7 left front, 25.5 left rear, 27.9 right front, and 26.3 right rear. The toe is negative 0.03 with the camber at negative 4.3 on the left and negative 4.4 on the right. Casters at 9.5. On the rear, the toe is 0.05 with the camber at negative 3 on the left rear and negative 3.1 on the right rear. And I tried to tighten it up a little bit, just a teeny bit, trying to get as much rubber on the road as I could. So I mean, I ran my temperatures maybe maybe about a degree tighter than I normally do, but really, especially the rear, trying to get so that way, when you get on it, you get more rubber on the ground. But as you can see, a lot different than a normal like a GT3 car. Of course, electronics, I mean, you only have one map and ABS. That's it. So you got no traction control. And I had 6 ABS, trying to keep the tires from locking up because they want to do that a lot when you have all that negative camber like that. So I ran a little bit more trying to keep them from getting destroyed. Fuel, I had 76 liters. And those are the tires that I ran, and there's only light graining on the right front. That's it. Everything else is good. The tire wear is, I really don't, that's pretty more than I really like as far as the rear, but there's just nothing you can change without putting more wing to it and slowing the car down. And I can't get these to be better because you can't adjust the diff, so there's nothing you can really do with it. Mechanical, got 4 on the anti-roll bar, 55 with the brake bias, 13 on the steer ratio. Now the brake bias you can go down to 54, so that's not a problem at all. Which I did right pretty quick after the car tires got warmed up after a few laps. I went to 54, trying to get the brakes because, like I said, the brake wise, they just don't stop near as good as a GT3 car. But I try to get it close, and I think it stops decent. The wheel rate on the front, the springs on the front are number 2, and the bumps, of course, 1,000 bump stop rate, that doesn't change. You can't adjust that. But the bump stop range I got set at 30 on the front. On the rear, the springs are number 1, and of course the same with the bump stop rate at 1,000, and I got the bump stop range at 50. And then on the anti-roll bar is 2 on the rear. And of course, like I said, the preload on the diff you can't do anything with. So that, again, it limits you what you can, trying to help the wear. The shocks, I got 5, 6, 8, 7 on the front, and on the rear is 5, 6, 7, 6 on the rear. Aero, I have 62 in the front, 90 in the rear with a 5 rear wing, and a 2 and a 3 in the brake ducts. And I mean, basically, it's kind of weird. You had to run them opposite to keep the temperatures in check, but that's what I did. And of course, the front aero variation is a negative 0.4. So that's the setup for this Porsche Cup car. I hope it, if you try it, I hope it works good for you. Again, I mean, I'm not really sure where it lies as far as pace because I'm not really sure. I mean, I know what some of the aliens run with them, and of course they were in races, so they're you got a lot of draft and things like that. I mean, but I'm not really sure as far as like in normal racing what the pace is. So hopefully this will do decent. I tried to make it more on the consistent side and driver friendly than ultimate pace, just for the fact that an hour race with no pit stop is a pretty good time, pretty long time on the tires and things like that. And I was trying to make it to where it would it'd still be raceable and be there at the end. So again, I appreciate it. I hope you hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And again, I have a PayPal link down in the description underneath the setup. If you'd like to help support the channel, I would really appreciate it. And I sure thank everybody that has. And I sure hope you come back and visit again really soon. See ya.